Welcome to Beyond Wealth, Success Unscripted with Matt Calnan. Discover the personal drive, professional journeys, and business strategies that have made a real impact. It's success from the inside out.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we're chatting with Sean Fero. Sean brings over 25 years of marketing experience, having worked with major brands like Shell, Air Miles, Visa, and SportCheck. Currently, he's the head of marketing at Trail Appliances, where he is leading the transformation of a 50-year-old brand into a modern, brand-focused entity that stands out in the competitive retail market. Sean's expertise in business strategy, leadership, and innovation has been instrumental in managing large teams and marketing budgets exceeding $25 million. So first of all, welcome to the show, Sean. And do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you're working on?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I wasn't born in Calgary, but raised in Calgary. All levels of school here. I think I moved here when I was one.
Okay, that counts.
I've been here a while. Little stint in Toronto, so all levels of school, through university, and then got my start in at Shell. And my start in branding really started there, and my love for branding started at Shell. I was in a bit of a customer service type of role in their commercial lubricants department, and when a role in brand and retail came up, I went after it pretty hard. And so, I did that role for about 3 years, and so I was marketing, everything from new fuel launches to a payment method to car washes and propane and basically everything but the food store.
Right.
And then my wife accepted a promotion with her employer at the time, and so we moved to Toronto. And the idea, I loved my time at Shell. I was there for about 6 years, but moving to Toronto, I kind of felt like it's the center of the marketing universe. I should probably step outside of oil and gas and see where it takes me. So I did that. I spent 5.5-ish years at the Air Miles reward program, doing everything from what would be considered an internal agency to being a sponsor manager. So I had a group of staff who managed the relationships between sponsors like HBC and National Car Rental and sort of mid-tier sponsors. And then I moved on to my first actual advertising agency gig, and it lasted about 15 months, and it was a horrible 15 months. From the moment I walked in the door, people were being let go. I was a victim of the third round of layoffs, after that 15 months. So I vowed to never go back. Careful what you say. But then I did a quick contract at Visa. And I worked in their consumer card marketing. So I did, marketing and advertising for Visa Debit, Visa Infinite, all of those card products that people have in their wallets.
Yeah.
And then my daughter was almost ready to be born, and we had always talked about potentially moving back home where family was, and I had the opportunity to go to Forzani at the time and FGL Sports as it became, to sort of lead the SportCheck brand, the Atmosphere brand. I had the chance to work with Sidney Crosby, as the brand ambassador after the infamous golden goal.
Cool.
And so that was, I really did enjoy that job. Things changed a little bit when Canadian Tire came in, and the sort of the overall culture changed a little bit, and I just thought that it was time for me to look for something else. So that's when suddenly I found myself back in the agency world, and I spent about 11 years on the advertising agency side of the business. A year at Taxi, a year at a local agency startup called Uppercut, and then just shy of 9 years at McCann, which is a global agency headquartered in New York with head office in Canada and Toronto. And I was vice president of client service at that time. So for all accounts in Western Canada, I was the, as they like to say, throat to choke if something was to go wrong. you know, and then I kind of, you know, took a step back and sort of said, you know, this is a really difficult role. You know, I had 6 or 8 staff. I had, you know, ultimately probably, you know, 20, 25 client service professionals reporting to me. And I had the biggest account in the agency across the country in Bayer Crop Science, which is the agriculture division of Bayer. And if you look at the number of FTE that I managed, you know, people who don't directly report to me, but creative folks and strategy folks and all that stuff that goes into managing an account of that size, you know, you're talking over 40 FTE. And so you know, there's a lot of pressure to keep revenue and a lot of pressure to, you know, keep staff and all that kind of stuff. And I just, after 9 years, was kind of at a point where I needed a bit of a step back and a break. So so we parted ways, which was just fine. And then I landed at Trail Appliances, which, you know, if you're from Calgary, it's hard not to know Trail Appliances if you know, own a home or a condo or anything, and you know, you need appliances. It's a, you know, it's a 50-year-old family owned and operated brand that does retail very well. They know how to, you know, put things on sale. They know how to, you know, price match and things like that. But there are a number of real key differentiators that I think a lot of people don't realize. And in chatting with the ownership group when this role was available, you know, the big thing that I emphasized was, you know, there's a need for more of a soul within this brand, and for people to understand that it's not, we want more than transactional loyalty. We want, you know, we want people who really believe in, you know, what we're doing. This is, you know, this is a family run business that is, you know, has started to transition to the next generation of family, and they've been, you know, sort of working through with still some of the older generation in the background. You know, and you know, the amount that they give back to the community, and not a lot of people know about that, and that's a bit by design. But you know, it's a really interesting atmosphere that I felt like there was a lot of opportunity to, you know, make change and change the image. Not that it's bad, because, you know, they have a good standing within certainly within the community. But I think there's more opportunity to, like I said, give it some soul, give it a personality, and for people to feel, you know, feel the same way about, you know, the business as the business has tried to be in the community.
Yeah, and probably some of that is staying on the forefront as you know, we go through ebbs and flows and shifts and whatnot. But also, I think I think brand loyalty is probably at an all-time low, would be my guess. I'm not a brand or a marketing guy, so I don't know that, but that's probably an important aspect too, is making sure that you hold on to those clients.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a difficult business, not like many other categories where, you know, we don't manufacture or build anything ourselves. We represent the brands that we sell. And so, you know, people have a tendency to have more brand loyalty to, you know, a Samsung, an LG, a Whirlpool, you know, KitchenAid, that kind of thing, than they do to the store that they purchased it at. And you know, there's heavy competition within our category. You know, you've got big box. There are a few other locally owned and operated and run companies here in Calgary. And so, you know, it's about finding our space, and why the way we approach business and the way we approach, you know, our interaction and our experience with customers, what's different, and what, you know, what we can do, you know. So we really honed in on what those are. You know, we carry thousands of appliances in stock locally. So, you know, you come to us because you know, your fridge has broken, or your dishwasher or your freezer. And I use those examples because those are, people would view those as more immediate needs. You know, we have examples of getting product to people the same day they've purchased it. So they've come in the morning and we've managed to get it on a truck and get it to them. That doesn't happen all the time, of course. People build homes and look for those appliances 3-4 months in advance. But in those unique situations, we can get those appliances to people. And you can't do that if you don't have stock in the warehouse or in the store, depending on whether you're in Red Deer or Edmonton or Saskatoon. If you don't have it on hand, you can't make that happen.
Yeah. So that almost goes to the customer service aspect of, if you need something, we have it, versus, sometimes you go at the bigger box stores and it's not so easy to get, or it's a few days and then they're using a shipping company to bring it out. And
like we do, what we offer, as well as sort of the, I don't want to say one-stop shop, but it really is. And, we can have it delivered to you. We can have it installed, and we can have the old one hauled away, all in one sort of interaction with Trail, as opposed to your point, which is you might have one company delivering it. You can't then schedule the installation until it's delivered, and then you have to call another company to get it hauled away. So we do really pride ourselves on the fact that we can do that, but it doesn't come without serious commitment and financial commitment. To put that financial outlay and have those products in stock. And we have a distribution center just a little bit east of our head office store, which is at Glenmore and Deerfoot. We now have a distribution center there, so we don't carry as much product within that store any longer. It's all coming out of the distribution center.
Yeah. Is that the entire model? Is that distribution center? Does that do kind of all the stores as a spoke?
It's hub and spoke for Calgary. Red Deer has storage on site in this, like in the back of the store. In Edmonton, we have a flagship store at 50th and Whitemud, and it's a massive, beautiful store that takes care of distribution for all of Edmonton, for the 2 stores there, and then Saskatoon has its own storage as well.
Okay.
It is a commitment. It did help us through COVID as well. We had product that we could deliver. Now, of course, we did run into circumstances like everyone else, but for a period of time there, we certainly had product that we could deliver during that time.
Yeah, if you want to talk about building brand loyalty, that's the way to do it.
A lot of times, where the rubber hits the road is when people are really in need. And if you can make that happen, if you can deliver on that, then you would hopefully have a customer for life.
Yeah. And this is going to sound like an incredibly first world statement, but I know firsthand how important a dishwasher is, because I went 5 days, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, without one before my replacement parts came in that I had to go and fix. It was not fun.
No. I mean, and we just bought a new fridge, and we'd been planning on it, and it was like, if we don't do something about this, we're going to be in a need state. And really, I would say that, probably 80-20 of the people who walk in the doors of our stores are in a need state. So 80% need versus the 20% who want. So the 20% who are planning to renovate or buy or build a new home, that kind of thing, or replace something before it goes, is definitely the smaller group of people. So it's important for our sales staff to be able to, listen, be empathetic, and be able to understand the situation that people are in. So when you can offer them something that they could get potentially today, but certainly tomorrow, it tends to bring that anxiety down a little bit. And we can solve your problems. I mean, that's really what our company and what any brand should be doing, is solving people's problems and listening to what that problem is and providing solutions to meet that. So we shouldn't be like any other brand. We're not in the business of necessarily selling appliances. Yes, we are, but peace of mind, convenience. We have sales staff, and who have it, like our sales staff have an average tenure of over 10 years.
Wow.
You'll find that in most sales-oriented professions.
In any retail either, right?
Yeah, and that's and a lot of that is because you can do very well as a salesperson if you're good at what you do, and you're a professional salesperson. But when you think about the amount of knowledge transfer that we can have from a salesperson to a customer, when you come into our stores, that we have the information and we can provide that solution. There are people who come in and use our staff for that and then go and buy it somewhere else, and
Yeah.
that's going to happen, and you can't stop it.
Nature of the business.
But it is what it is. People are, they're going to go and get the information where they can get it. So
yeah, for sure. What was your start in branding? I know you said you started at Shell there, and that was kind of your first foray into it. But what's your background that really pushed you into that side, or was it fluke that you got in there?
It was a little bit of probably right place, right time. It was, Shell is, at least at that time, Shell was one of those companies that was very difficult to get into. But once you were there, you could have a number of different careers within the four walls of Shell. And so, my degree was in political science. I was going to be a lawyer, and then, it didn't look like it does on TV, so I didn't want to do it. But I did a minor in communication science. And that, a lot of that minor was about, the power of persuasion. And it was it's a different way of looking at marketing.
Yeah.
And
Almost the psychology behind it. Is that fair?
yeah, it's a little bit of method behind the communication, the language you use, the approach you take, the tone of your voice, all of those things. You study a lot of politicians, like Kennedy and the like, who were, sort of master orators. And so, I was able to kind of take that, and when the role came up, when I said earlier that I went hard after it, I really did go hard after it. And it was one of those cases where, I was really trying to show that I wanted it more than anyone else. And, I got the opportunity. And, in university, I never really liked the BCom people and, all that kind of stuff. And, I've learned most of what I've learned in my branding career through experience, through conferences, through, reading things, being a bit of a student of marketing throughout my career, paying attention to what other brands are doing, trying to find out what I think, is working in that campaign, and how I can apply it to something I'm working on, whether I was on the client side or the agency side, to bring that to bear and say, how can we utilize this sort of nugget of information and turn it into something interesting.
Yeah.
I do strongly believe that, from a branding perspective, there has to be, and this will go back to my days at McCann, but there has to be a truth. I mean, from a legislation perspective, there has to be truth in advertising. But the reason why advertising or marketing can work is when there is a truth that you're playing off of. And, it's not just a random thought or a random idea, or this might look nice. It's not that happening. It's about saying that, fundamentally, people believe this, and therefore, how does our company or our product, fit with that belief?
Yeah.
And when you can then put really interesting creative behind that, you can really make, the needle move, I guess, from a sales perspective and hopefully brand perspective. I mean, ultimately, it has to translate into sales, or it doesn't. It's just nice to look at or listen to.
Yeah. Everything's got to have the ROI to it, or it's a little tougher to do.
Yeah. So to get back to your sort of original question, from Shell, then when I went to Air Miles, I eventually, through a couple of roles there, got into brand, and my role there was how to help the sponsors. So in this case, the larger ones like, Safeway and BMO and at the time Sport Check, work with the Air Miles brand together to help grow their business. So that was the role that I played. And then, I would say that most of my agency time has been, focused on brand, but again, it has to generate sales. It has to turn things around. And although you can't always draw a straight line, if it ultimately you have to start seeing the needle move. And if it's if it's going up, you'll always be told, well, it wasn't all marketing. But if it's going down, you better pull that campaign and you better give me something new. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so I've come to learn that, and that's okay.
Mhm. So a lot of the companies that you mentioned, and by the way, the fact that I know what air miles is ages me a bit. It ages you, and because there's probably a lot of people that don't know what that is anymore.
Yeah, it's still around, but yes,
It is
yeah,
it is
it's
still
long.
around, definitely know what it was,
It.
but
I mean, in honesty, they're trying to revamp the program, but
I noticed that.
it
Yeah.
it lost relevance
Yeah.
to a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of those organizations, though, like the Shells, the Airmails, the Visa, or Verzani at the time, those are big, big organizations. And Trail in its own right is actually a fairly large organization. It's just trumped by those sizes, right? And I'm sure when you're on the agency side, you're working with a lot of small businesses. So right now you're probably kind of right in the middle of that with Trail. What are the differences between working with, the small, the big, and then the position that you're in now?
Honestly, most of my agency time. So at McCann, I was largely dealing with, with bigger organizations. So I had,
I guess
Bear.
you're there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, Bear was the largest. We also worked with Western Canada Lotteries, the Play Alberta, the digital
Yeah.
online gaming, and then Winner's Edge, which is the in casino loyalty program.
Right.
But when I was at Uppercut, I did deal with a lot of smaller companies, and I would say that sort of the biggest difference, when you go from I think just fundamentally the biggest difference is that when you're dealing with a smaller company, you're typically dealing with fewer decision makers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that could be one, it could be a few. But when you start to get up to the Bears of the world and others of the like, now you've got a committee. And so when you're trying to make change, it's a lot easier to make it when you have one or two
Yeah.
decision makers. Try as they might, large organizations still will have a committee. They might
Mhm.
say you're empowered to do this and you're empowered to do that, but ultimately you got to run it up.
Yeah.
And
There's a
it
governance
gotta come
structure
back.
to it, right? You got to have the governance oversight of it.
Absolutely. I would say that the biggest difference that I see in going from a McCann, which is publicly traded, which is, a few hundred people in Canada, but globally, several
Huge.
thousand,
Yeah.
to a trail, is night and day.
Mhm.
We've got at Trail we have an ownership team that's really comprised of three people, president and two vice presidents, and they make most of the day-to-day decisions. Not that there isn't a larger ownership group because it is a
Right.
family-run organization, but they're empowered, the three of them, to make the operational decisions to run the business. Um, uh, you know, I make this joke, but it's true. When I was being interviewed, the head of HR said to me, or actually, I should back up. I said to them, I'm really looking for, more work-life balance. I'm really looking for, like, I'm exhausted. I'm burnt out. I still want to give all of me to something, but, I would like to have as much balance as possible. And she said to me, well, I can guarantee you will never receive an email from your boss, which in my case is the president, Wally, after hours, because you will never receive an email from him during office hours. And I went, huh? And she said, he reads all of his emails, but he doesn't reply to them. He would rather have the conversation. He would rather sit down and talk about it. So that is a huge change for me. And definitely now, after 14 months, I'm starting to kind of get used to it and understand the flow. And he's put a lot of trust in me to, like, I did ask him 6, 8, whatever months ago, how much of the things that I'm doing to change things do you want to see? And he said, only the major things,
Hmm.
like only the big things. If you're changing how the flyer looks, don't care.
Yeah.
If you're, like you do what you do best.
Yeah. You're
And
the expert in it. Take the
yeah,
autonomy.
and that's very comforting. I'm only the third marketing director that Trail has ever had.
Wow.
So in 50 years, three.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there's some autonomy to make the change. It's very strange not to get emails. Not that I don't get emails, I get lots of them, but nowhere near what I was getting at McCann. I mean, I'm not getting staff and executive and client and all that coming in, So and once the store closes at 6 o'clock, you hear from no one,
Hmm.
which is really an interesting thing. The other thing I find is that they don't move as quickly as what some organizations like to move. Once they're ready to move, then we move. But sometimes it takes a little bit. We want to look at it another way. We want to do this. We want to do that. But they're okay if it takes a little bit longer. And there are some cultures where if it takes a little longer, that's a failure.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but with Trail, it's okay if it takes an extra 6 months, and I'm not used to that. I'm used to fail fast and all those things that marketers or that businesses try to do. But I find it very refreshing. I'm not going to lie. The first 3, 4, 6 months, my head was spinning because I didn't know what I was supposed to do with myself. And I couldn't believe that I was going home at night, not getting emails and not being asked to do things. So, I've gotten used to it now. So it's kind of nice. I was on vacation just a couple of weeks ago, and one of the owners, one of the vice presidents up in Edmonton gave me a call. And I was in New York. I was at Chelsea Market, so there was a lot of people around. It was loud. It was busy, and we were talking. And he was telling me what he needs. And then he goes, "Are you in the office?" And I said, "No, I'm on vacation." And he goes, "Well, why'd you answer the phone?" And I said, "Well, you own the company." And he goes, "Well, yeah, but like next time if I call you and you're on vacation, don't answer it." And I
Hmm.
said, "Well, but how are you going to know I'm on vacation? You'll just think I'm ducking you." Anyway, he goes, "Touche." But anyway, I can tell you that never would have happened
Yeah.
in some of my previous roles, that someone would give me the gears for answering the phone on vacation.
Yeah. It
Um,
would be the other
but
way around if you missed a call because you were doing
absolutely,
something.
absolutely. So those are just some examples of how different it is
Yeah.
working in this environment than it has been for me recently.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. What's on the horizon for yourself, for the organization? Where are you guys going?
Well, we are starting in September. We will literally be celebrating 50 years. So 50 years in business. It's an incredible local story when you think about the fact that the business started, in 1974 out of a bottle depot renting appliances to where it
Wow.
is today. So, there's a lot to celebrate from that perspective. As I said, the flagship store in Edmonton just opened in the fall of last year, and like I was impressed walking into it. And I remember my wife saying, like, "Yeah, but it's an appliance store." And I said, it is, but it's incredible. And the things that have been thought of, and wash, you can wash, they have a wash bay to wash all of the trucks, because they did the analysis. And how much are we spending sending those trucks out to be washed every day? Why don't we just build our own? Being Edmonton and certainly Calgary and Saskatoon and Red Deer, they built the bays so that the trucks can be loaded inside with the doors down and sit overnight. So now you can just get in, and the driver can take off in the
And
morning
it's warm.
warm vehicle that doesn't need to be loaded because it's inside, whereas, in the other places, they're parking an empty vehicle outside in the cold and then having to, to do it in the mornings. So, 50 years for us, we will be definitely celebrating that over the course of the next little bit. We're putting it in here sort of, before the holiday season, but it's pretty incredible, to be a part of this story at this time. There are lots of staff who've been around for 30 years. It's pretty incredible. But to come in right around this sort of really, milestone year, is really interesting. So on the horizon for us certainly is that piece. We're going to continue to, evolve the creative and the marketing and the tone and voice and and look and feel that we bring. Everything has always been very hard hitting, very, very price an item, and we're not going to get away from that. That's what we do, but it's going to come to you in a different way. It's going to be served to you with a brand that's, approachable, easy to do business with, knowledgeable, sort of those pillars that we can stand on. And we've done it a little bit with Kinetico, which is our water softener product and home drinking water system product. Talking about, we used to market it as, this thing is $4.99 and, it's on special this week for $4.49. Now it's about, are your dishes coming out with spots on them? Are your shirts not getting as white as they should be? Like all of these things, these are problems with solutions.
Telling the story behind it.
As opposed to, get this water softener at this price.
Yeah.
Well, but why do I need it? So it's about turning it around a little bit, turning it on its head. We have a lot that we can do. We'll just take it one thing at a time is all we can really do. I have a staff of 5. And we manage everything from, in-store signage to out of store and monolith signs, to radio and digital and the website. And I haven't even talked about the website, like all of those things, run through my team, for Alberta and Saskatchewan. We are one company, but we do split responsibilities in terms of work, between BC and then Alberta and Saskatchewan.
Okay.
Same company, same family.
But
Cousins
from a corporate standpoint.
Corporately, we run it. We buy things together. We do all that stuff, but the markets are different. So we run them differently.
Got it. If somebody wants to learn more about what you guys are doing, or maybe go to that website or connect with yourself, where can they go for that?
Yeah, well, if they're looking to buy appliances, they can go to trailappliances.com. Or, in Calgary, we have 3 locations, one in Crowfoot, one in Sunridge, and then one, the main store at Deerfoot and Glenmore. With me personally, I'm on LinkedIn, SeanFero. My email address is seanfero@gmail.com. And you can get a hold of me that way. I do some consulting on the side, as long as it isn't a conflict with. I started doing that when I was, after the agency and before Trail. So I've helped a few companies out along the way. But so if anybody wants to chat about that, I'm open to that as well.
Awesome. Well, certainly appreciate your time being on the show here today with us, and wish you guys the best moving forward and into your 50th year.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean.
You've been listening to Beyond Wealth, Success Unscripted with Matt Calnan. Want to be our next guest? Visit beyondwealthpodcast.ca/guest. See you on the next episode.